Hey everybody. Hey, welcome to day 3. Let me just get sorted here with my Zoom. Good morning, everybody. How are you all? Let me just set this up as you say good morning. I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes just to come on in so that we can wait for everybody to turn up. If you're live or if you're watching the replay, I'd love for you to connect and chat in the Facebook. We are on Facebook. I'm streaming Zoom to Facebook. So I'm used to saying Zoom, but in the Facebook chat or in the Facebook comments, if you could just chat in there, like I said, live or replay, doesn't matter. Let me know what you're taking away from the session. Let me know what your learnings have been over the last couple of days, just as I get everybody set up. Hey, Abby, great to see you. Good morning, Tabitha. All right, I can see the Facebook chat. Let me just bring up my Zoom again. It's a little bit hard trying to navigate through everything, but I think we are good. So let me know who listened to yesterday's, firstly, the day 2 self-sabotage call, which was amazing. So thank you all for joining live. And also I'm really curious who joined in the Recode session. So I think Abby, I've seen you on there. Let me know any little, I guess, epiphanies that you had or aha moments or things that you took away from those 2 sessions. If you haven't had a chance to watch them yet, that's completely okay. You can definitely catch up. I've got all of the recordings as I'm doing them uploaded onto the all access page so that you've got them all there in one spot, nice and easy to find. Hey, Sarah. Yeah, awesome. I'm glad that you watched both of those sessions, which is fantastic. So it was really good to see you on there. Beautiful. Yeah, awesome. That's great, Tabitha. Yeah, listen to the second one. It's great. So our recoding process is really incredible. So yeah, I was really happy that I could share that with you ladies as well. So day 3, who is excited? Who is really excited to go through all of this awesome content? And now that we've covered, obviously day 1 was a lot around where you currently are in your journey. And then day 2 was around the sometimes self-sabotage that comes up. And it's not often a matter of if it will come up, it's usually a matter of when, right? So I really think that that's important to really get clear on those 2 things. Firstly, where you currently are and where you're going to, and getting clear on those 2 points, but also then looking at all of the stuff that kind of comes up in between there, how you can start to remove some of that self-sabotage or some of those behaviors that manifest as self-sabotage. So yeah, I just really want to ask you what your biggest learning from yesterday was, and perhaps how you can see that self-sabotage does tend to pop up for you, and how it kind of manifests and in what behaviors it manifests in your life. Yeah, Abby, nutrition is sometimes a big downfall as well. So you're going to get so much out of this session. So I'm really excited to share this with you. All right, so again, we talked a lot about like celebration yesterday, and I think as a lot of you have been commenting on what you've learnt, for a lot of you, it's like realizing that, yeah, it's okay to celebrate the wins, and we should be celebrating those wins. So I want to celebrate you for all turning up like it's day 3, and you're still here, you're still engaged, you're still going strong. So that's really awesome. So don't I guess discount the fact that in itself is really huge. So plenty of people haven't made it to this point. Plenty of people probably won't make it to this point. So I really just commend you and just encourage you to celebrate that in itself. So like I said, yesterday we talked a lot about self-sabotage, right? And a lot of it is around those beliefs, that you've been holding on to that influence your actions, right? Or your lack of action. Because again, like I said yesterday, and this is a really important point that I always like to make, is inaction in itself is an action, okay? So even though it's like it's not doing anything, right? Or you feel like overwhelmed, or you procrastinate, that in itself is taking action, even though it's not actually an action, right? So that in itself is going to affect your results. So all of those thoughts, those beliefs lead to our actions, lead to the results that we're getting. So I really just wanted to point that out, and just to make you again really aware of that. And then, yeah, the recoding that we did yesterday, it was a great session. It kind of was, yeah, it took a whole new, I guess, life of its own, as we had, different people from all over the place coming in and, sharing their, their reality of where they're at right now, and just really helping them to see, perhaps a different perspective. So I was really excited that, you all have the opportunity to join in on that. So, but it really comes down to, if we want different results, we have to take different actions. So who can really see that now? Hey, Alicia, great to see you here. who can really see now that in order to get those different results, you really just have to have that different action taking, right? So it's like you're here currently, you want to be here. What's gotten you to this point A is going to be a different set of actions. That's what's going to get you to point B, okay? So that's really, really powerful. And I really also want to make the point of, as we talked about self-sabotage, it's understanding that it's not inherently that, you know, you're lazy or you lack willpower or, you know, that you can't get it together or there's something wrong with you. That's not the case. It's really about, you know, those underlying beliefs, right? Or some sort of, you know, reason why you're holding on to these beliefs, whether it's, you know, to stay in the comfort zone or to be safe or to be, you know, to feel comfortable, right? So there's always a reason behind that. So I really just want to make it really clear to you that, you know, you don't have to see yourself as just someone who's like lazy or can't be motivated or doesn't have the willpower, right? It's not about that. It's really about becoming aware of these beliefs that we might hold about ourselves, okay? So, all right, so this is the good stuff, okay? So you might be wondering, and I know a lot of you have done your assignments already, which is great. So day 1 and day 2, day 3 landed in your inbox already. Some of you may have done that. If not, that's completely okay. It's only a really short one today, just to get you to have a little bit of a think about perhaps, you know, the things that you've done in the past. And then today we're going to really look at debunking some of those nutrition myths that potentially, you know, you might have experienced before, right? So this is a point where, you know, we talk about having a customized plan, which, you know, I think is really, really important. So it's really about, okay, how do we do that, right? And this is what today is all about. So we spoke, like I said, about the self-sabotage, but I truly believe, like, no matter what you do or what you start in terms of like a diet or a program or, you know, some sort of challenge or whatever it is, you're always bringing you to the table, right? So it's like, if you don't address you, you know, right, and how you do things and those beliefs that you have, you're always going to keep recreating those same results. All right, so who is with me and who's excited? Hey, Melissa, great to see you here as well. Let me share my screen. Hopefully our slides are going to play the game today. I was just trying to do a post on our Facebook page before, and it wasn't playing the game, but I got around it, so that was good. I'm always sneaky when it comes to trying to make sure that our system does work and we do what we can to make sure we can do what we need to. So just give me one moment. I'll share my screen, and I just want to, before I start chatting and going through this, just give me a yes in the chat box or a thumbs up in the chat box if you can actually see those slides. Let me just refresh this and I should be able to see it myself. All right, can everybody see the slides? Hopefully. Sorry, there is a bit of a delay. So I'm just going to wait 2 seconds until I just get confirmation that you can see the slides, so that I'm not, showing you something that you can't actually see. Where are we? Yeah, beautiful. Thanks, Abby. I think there's a little bit of a lag. I don't know whether it's my internet's a little bit slow again, but we'll get there. So thank you. All right. So day 3, we're going to talk about reconstructing the metabolism. Okay. So a lot of this comes down to nutrition, particularly, right? And so a lot of the times with all the things that we've potentially done in the past, we've done a lot of, I wouldn't say damage, but maybe, what's a good word? Down regulating, right, of our metabolism. Okay. And I'm going to explain to you what I mean by that, and how this all kind of comes together. But before I do that, I really want to explain to you this 80-20 rule. Okay. So some of you might have heard of this. It's either called like the Pareto principle or the 80-20 rule, but basically in effect, it means that it's 20% of your action produces 80% of your results, right? So 20% of the effort that you give results in 80% of the actual result, okay? So sometimes we spend all our time doing all of the 80% over here, but it's not the most effective action that we can take, right? So it's like if we just did this small 20% that it's actually effective, that gives us 80% of our results, right? So sometimes it's a matter of like doing the things that sometimes perhaps we want to avoid, right? But this is really what I want to talk to you today about, because we don't want to be taking just action for the sake of taking action. We want to be making sure that what we're doing and the steps we're taking, the action that we are taking, is the most effective. Okay, so it's really just about doing the things that are going to drive us forward to get that result. Because if, sometimes we do this 80% of the stuff and it's only getting a very small yield in terms of results. So this is what today is about, is to make sure that, we talk about all of the things that are going to be effective in those really important things. So, and yesterday, like I talked to you about the beliefs, and this is, again, a really good one, with the water and the fish analogy, right? And it's really understanding that, sometimes we have these beliefs swimming around, and a lot of this does come with, the nutrition beliefs and things like that, that we may not even be aware of. Okay. But what we really want to do is go, okay, how can we hone in on those 20% of things? But that doesn't mean that it's not going to be fun. Okay. So it's going to be, it doesn't have to be like hard or sucky or, grueling or restrictive, which kind of sets you up for a battle, right? Like an internal battle. And I guess I just want to maybe get you to let me know in the comments box, like if, oh, sorry, it might be just that one side that's a little bit blurry, because it's a little bit blurry on my screen too, Tabitha. If you have experienced this where like you've tried something and it just seems really hard, right? Like it's an uphill battle. It's really restrictive. You've got to, it's got to suck. It's got to be really, like hating your life hard, and it's just not fun. So I think probably a lot of you could perhaps agree, and that sometimes when we are sort of falling into that, dieting sort of mentality or that dieting trap, we can get into the idea that it has to be hard or difficult. Okay. So when we talk about this journey, right, so our nutrition journey, I'm going to be, talking about the actions, right? So it's going to take action. So we want those, sometimes we think, I guess, that the actions that we take in terms of, like, say, starting a diet or some sort of nutrition plan, it has to be an either or, right? So it has to be either effective, okay, in terms of like effective in getting you the result that you want, or enjoyable. Right? So we can't have both. It's got to be one or the other. So yeah, OptiFast. Oh my gosh, Melissa, I don't know whether how much of my story you've kind of heard, but OptiFast, that was something that I did as well. Not effective. Well, maybe effective short term, definitely not effective. It affected my health really badly, and certainly not enjoyable. So yeah, totally hearing you and getting you on that one. But yeah, most of us think that it's either got to, it's got to be either or, effective or enjoyable. It's going to suck, and we have to just grit our teeth and just kind of grin and bear it, right? So we have to give up the things that we love. We have to give up, our social events and fun things that we do. And that's, we're just going to do whatever it takes just to get that result, okay? And it feels like, sometimes you say, like, I'm just going to pick effective, right? So if you're the sort of person who's, really like goal orientated, and you're like, I don't care what it takes, I'm just gonna like knuckle down and white knuckle it and do it. But a lot of the times then we get, like you were sort of chatting yesterday about, getting to the weekend, and it's just like, oh, well, I'm gonna throw it all, out the window, because you have this mindset now of like, oh, it's I'm not enjoying it. I'm just gonna go and like, all hell for leather and like, YOLO type thing, and just do all the things that, that you shouldn't be doing. So that's the real, I guess, hard and contradictory part, is going, does it have to be effective and get my results, and not enjoyable at the same time? So I think a lot of us can probably relate to that, right? Isogenics, yeah, absolutely. I think isogenics probably came out a little bit closer to the point when I had a little bit more knowledge. So I totally would have been someone who would have done isogenics as well, Michelle. So I can totally get that. So, effective, if we were just going for effective, like it can work for the short term, like, if we are that sort of really goal orientated, like I'm just gonna, stick it out and I'm gonna do what it takes, right? But again, that's not long-term effective, okay? Because as a lifestyle, that's not going to work. We're not going to want to sustain that forever, right? So we want to find the part where that overlaps, okay? So this is what your plan should look like, right? We want to find that overlap, okay? So rather than having two separate circles, that's like either or, effective or, where's my hand in the mirror, in the camera, effective or, we want to have it overlap to have this sweet spot in the middle, right? So again, like you can have those really goal-driven ladies, but again, it's not long-term. So even if you are the most like committed, strong-willed person, there should be still some degree of enjoyability, right? And actually enjoying what you're doing to lead you to that result. So so just knowing that, I think is a really good thing, right? To know that you can have a plan that is effective, that does get the results and is enjoyable. So I think that should be really reassuring. 100%, laugh out loud as well, because Tabitha, like all of the things that you ladies have done, I've probably done them and 10 times plus that, right? So yes, absolutely. If I never have to drink a protein shake ever again, I'll be super happy. Yeah, exactly. They weren't enjoyable at all, and expensive too, right? And who wants to put all that crap in your body when you can like just eat real food, right? So so we find this overlap, right? And what this looks like, this overlap, is going to be different for every single person. Okay, so because what's fun and enjoyable for me may not be fun and enjoyable for you, right? So it's really unique to you. Okay, so I just really want you to understand that. So for me, the certain foods that I like to eat might be completely different to the foods that you like to eat. So it's really just knowing that overlap is going to be unique to every single person that's watching. Okay, so really we need both. We need that overlap, and just I think just knowing that, like, you don't have to live on those shakes forever, or you don't have to like just white knuckle it through just eating crap that you don't actually enjoy, is really I think empowering. So it's really just about I think having that reassurance that it is possible to have your cake and eat it too, I guess, have that effectiveness and have that enjoyability. So the quadrant here. So does everyone kind of understand that? They sort of know that you can sort of have, I guess, that kind of melded or molded together. Because before I talk about, I really just want to talk about, I guess, filling out. So from up here, this customized plan to a one size fits all plan. So we're going to kind of build this out, right? So we're going to go through each of these, and you'll see what I mean in a moment. And we're really just going to go through so that you can understand the difference between perhaps what you've done in the past and perhaps where you can get to really have those effective results while you're actually enjoying your nutrition as well. Okay. So we talked a lot about yesterday, like the beliefs that are, showing up in your journey that are going to impact the results that you have. Okay, so what I'm actually going to go through is 4 types of, I guess, mentalities or ways that we look at nutrition or dieting. Okay, and these beliefs might be showing up in your journey now, okay, in a certain way, and that is probably the reason why you are struggling. Okay, so we can start to talk about how you're going to make the shift of where you are currently at, and you'll see as we start to see this, and then we're going to identify that, how we're going to get you to support your goals and in a way that overlaps for you, right? All right, so we talked about like a customized plan versus a one size fits all plan. So we spoke about that on day 1, and if it's a generic plan and it's supposed to fit everybody, then it's actually going to fit nobody, right? So it doesn't actually help anybody at all, okay? Because, a one size fits all plan is kind of like a, this thing that doesn't really exist. Like you literally cannot make that work, right? So we understand that, at this point in the process, it has to be customized to you because you have your own unique goals. You have your own unique lifestyle, set of circumstances. Some of you have kids, some of you may not, some of you are, young, some of you might be in your 50s, in your 60s. There's just so many different variables. Some of you might have, metabolism issues, hypothyroidism, things like that, affect the way that, your ability to get those results. So whatever, your goals are or your circumstances, it really has to be unique. Okay. So we've got this one size fits all, and we're going to talk about, I guess, your fitness journey is all about your decision. Okay. So a lot of the times we have decisions to make, right? And there could be 1,000 decisions in this whole sea of like what we should do or could do or what we see out there. And I think I saw someone in their information that I did this morning, like, they said that they just see, things and then they kind of just go and follow that for a bit, right? So there's so many decisions that we could make. So we really want to make sure that you're not making the wrong decision when it comes to your fitness journey, because, you know, we don't want you to be wasting time. We don't want you to be on this, like, you know, cycle that you just keep going round and round, and then you rebound and then you're in like a worse position off than what you were before, like putting the weight back on, right? So how are you actually supposed to make decisions in your journey? So who gets it? Like, there's a lot of decisions to be made when it comes to this. It's like, I could do this, or I could do that, or I shouldn't do this, or I should do that, right? So there's so many decisions that we could potentially make. So just let me know in the chat box if that's you. Just before I share this through here, I just realized I remembered I had my coffee here, so I'm just gonna sip on that before it goes cold. So this is nice. We're kind of just having a coffee together. So when it comes to decisions, I think my Facebook is a little bit laggy, a little bit slow. So let me just wait just a minute just to make sure that you're all still here. I think I can see that. Yeah, way too many. And it does, yeah, it becomes overwhelming. Exactly. And like we spoke about overwhelm before, but it's like, you know, when it's that sort of overwhelm, it's like, well, what action do I take? So this is really what I want to make it clear is like, what is that right action? What is that 20%, right? So that's really what we want to get clear on, because when we make decisions, right, we all know that if you're led by this really intense emotion, that can lead to really rash decisions. Like, who's done that before? Like, just gone, oh my God, like, hate my body, I hate how I look, I'm just going to cut out all my carbs, right? And that's just like this emotional decision that makes you create or make these really rash decisions, right? So, and they're very, very rarely the best decisions, right? They're not the best decisions that we could be making. So, you know, we can go off the handle, get really frustrated, and then just be like, I'm just going to go really strict and really extreme, right? And that's what it becomes, that effective or enjoyable. So that's when we can really have that disconnect. And a lot of us are going about our fitness journey, allowing the emotions to come up, allowing the beliefs about the process and the journey, like, guide us and make those decisions or affect the way that we make decisions. So I just really want you, and this is probably the biggest thing that I want you to take away from today and out of what we do speak about, is what would happen if you actually stripped away all of the emotion out of your journey, okay? And you actually move towards your goal using data-driven decisions, right? So what would be different if you took out the emotional, like, oh my God, my pants don't fit this morning, I'm going to make a rash decision, to making those decisions based on data that has no emotion at all? Let me know if that would be like, what would be different if that was the case, right? You were just making really sensible, well thought out decisions based on the data, right, rather than the emotional kind of response that you're having, right? So they would be much, much better. Okay, everything starts to change when you start to make better decisions. Okay, so I really, really want you to take that away from today. If you want to write that down, right? If I'm making a decision, is it based on emotion and intense emotion, or is it based on data and just being sensible about what the data is telling me, right? All right, so when we start to put these two factors together, we have, you know, 4 quadrants, I guess, that kind of show up, right? And they represent 4 types of women and how they approach their fitness goals. So I really just want to go through that. So you're going to see, I guess, why different women can get different results. And also going back to what we spoke about on day 1 in terms of, you know, when you see your friend or your sister or your mum or somebody like that, you know, doing this certain thing and getting a result, and then you try it and then you don't get the result, I want you to really consider this and what you're about to learn when you think about that as well, okay? So at the end of the training stage, like, not only you'll be able to see like what type you fit into here, which is really important, but you're also going to sort of see, okay, how could I potentially get a new result, okay? But it's really about, you know, what identity is going to allow you to move forward to get that result, okay? So I guess in terms of when we talk about identity, that's a whole different set of beliefs, okay? So it comes to like looking at those beliefs that we potentially have around nutrition and starting to really question those, okay? So this is just a really valuable thing for you to understand. And I don't sort of mean that emotion's a bad thing. It absolutely isn't a bad thing, but we really want to make sure that when it comes to making decisions in our fitness journey, that, you know, we're stripping away any of that emotion that makes us, you know, make those different rash decisions. Okay. Yes, awesome. I love that. I love that. Being a scientist, absolutely. And we have spoken about that before. So I love that. So let's start with the first type of women. Okay, we've got the first two types. Oh, sorry, I didn't get over. So we've got the emotional decision and the decisions driven by data over here. Okay. All right. So let's have a look at these and let's see which box you can start to see where you fit, right? So the first one is the yo-yo dieter, or the, you know, the back and forth hamster wheel type dieter. Okay. So that's the lady that looks for like the cookie cutter diet. Okay. She's the one that's like, I just want to do like the generic one size fits all, whether that be like Weight Watchers or keto, where it's like just cut your carbs and only eat protein and fat, or whether it's like intermittent fasting, which says, you know, you can only eat, I don't know, what is it, like you fast until lunchtime or something like that. I know I was trying to think of them, it's like the 5 and 2 or the something and something, like 8-hour fast and this and that. And like, there's so many, I don't even know what they are, but that's the kind of yo-yo dieter, right? So that's like a cookie cutter diet. Okay. And during this process, she's like making these really, so she's got the one size fits all plan, but she's really making these emotional decisions. Okay. So it's like, it's a real emotional roller coaster up and down process. So they get on the scale, you know, they have all these feelings around, you know, I'm doing really great, I've lost 1 kilo, I'm doing horrible, I've put on 500 grams, and they just go up and down with their emotions based on, you know, all of this emotional stuff that is giving them feedback. Okay. And it's, like I said, this roller coaster. And they rebound, you know, when they make these emotional rash decisions, and they usually end up in a worse position than what they would have done if they had have, you know, not done anything at all, right? So so there's also, yeah, I look at this kind of, you know, hamster wheel yo-yo dieter, and I really truly believe it's going to be very, very, very difficult for her to be successful long term. Okay. So if you can start to identify with some of these, I want you to keep the chat going in the chat box. If that's you, you're like, yeah, I tick that box, I think that's me. It's not to say you have to be just one. You might be like a few kind of, you know, all blended together. I could probably say that I was, you know, a lot of these sometimes all blended together, like a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Okay. So the next one is the diet hopper. Okay, so again, I see this a lot. Yeah, been there, done them all. Absolutely. The diet hopper was absolutely one of these. You know, she follows a generic one size fits all plan, or some sort of diet that fits, you know, the rules, right? So you'll notice on the activity task today, it's like a diet is when you're following somebody else's rules, like, you know, you have to do this or you have to do that, like, and on, you know, some sort of level, she, even though she's following a one size fits all plan, she's kind of over here in this sort of quadrant, you know, she's making some decisions driven by data, right? So she's sticking to it with the caveat of, as long as it's working, I'm going to follow this as long as I'm seeing the results that I want. Okay, the scales are going down, the measurements are going down, but as soon as that stops, like, oh my gosh, she freaks out. She makes, you know, data-driven decisions for a little while, but then once, you know, like the weight plateaus or the measurements might go up a little bit or whatever it is, she's like, oh, I need to like jump ship, I'm out. Not ship. I'm out, right? I need to go find something else, you know, and she either stops completely and is like, oh, well, this isn't working, so I'm going to stop. Or she goes and finds something else. She's like, okay, well, I might have been eating, you know, keto, but I can't eat better keto because I can't cut any more carbs. Maybe what I'll do now is I'll go fast, right? Or I'll do like a, you know, a detox or something like that, because that might kickstart things a little bit more, right? So in the back of her mind, it's like, if I just have enough diets, or if I just try enough things, I'm going to find that one that works for me. Okay, it's like living in hope that you're going to find this. Okay, and you know, she might do it for a week or two, the scales might go down again. What happens then? Like, she's then got to go find something else when, you know, the progress stops. Okay, so who can relate to that? Who can really relate to being like perhaps the diet hopper? It's like, yeah, this is great until it's like not working, or what I perceived to know is not working. Oh, absolutely, Tabitha. I'm like your spirit sister here, girl, because like you are me like a few years ago, honestly, and that's why I can relate, because what you're going through and what you're all going through, like I've been there before. So that's, I guess, why, and I guess why I can laugh about it in terms of making it a little bit lighthearted, so that you can feel like it's not just you that's going through this, right? It's you know, a lot of us are going through the same thing. So So before I go into the other two styles, or the other two, I guess, identities or mindsets around dieting, I really just want to go through the first myth, okay? And the first myth that I'm going to talk about is losing weight is all about finding the right diet, okay? And when I say like losing weight, again, like I spoke about yesterday, insert your goal here. So it may not be losing weight, it could be gaining muscle, it could be getting stronger, getting leaner, you know, flat stomach, whatever it is for you. So whatever that is for you, I want you to insert whatever that goal is that you're chasing into wherever I say, you know, weight loss or fat loss, okay? So it's all on the same, okay? So you have this goal, you know, whether it's outside fat loss, you know, but it's all going to apply the same. So so the number one is, yeah, like I said, losing weight is all about finding the right diet. Now, when I say the word diet, I want to explain like what kind of context I'm using that in. Like, so like I said before, like I call a diet something that has rules, like anything that you're following that's, you know, or a lifestyle, you know, that's created by and for somebody else, okay, that you try and fit into your lifestyle. So if someone says, I'm eating keto, like you might love carbs, you might go, I do not want to give up eating potato or, you know, bananas or whatever it is that you love, right? But because someone has said, this is what you have to do, and this is what you've got to fit into your lifestyle, that's a diet, because that's somebody else's rule. So it's like someone else has come up with this, and you're trying to, like that round, you know, peg in the square hole, you're trying to fit it, right? Or the square peg in the round hole, whatever, you know what I mean? Because I'm thinking maybe the round peg could fit in the square hole. Who knows, right? But you know what I'm getting at. So no worries, no problem at all. Tabitha, I'll catch up with you soon. All right, so that's basically what a diet means, okay? So it's a rule, and it's a thing, like you have to say, you know, do what I say, pretty much. So there's rules that go with it, and the way that, you know, a lot of people teach macro tracking, like, you know, what we do, they treat it like a diet, okay? And some of you that are perhaps in the program at the moment might, this is going to be really, really beneficial for you, because I think some of the time, you can actually look at macro tracking and think of it as a diet, but that doesn't mean what it is, right? That does not mean what it is. So it's really going to be about starting to, you know, see, and, you know, when I talk about macro tracking, it doesn't have to be that way. You know, it's just a tool, right? It's a tool. And as we're sort of teaching it, we're teaching you how to utilize the tool. And that really is the difference, I think, between, you know, just going, okay, I'm just going to count my macros, to actually, you know, teaching it differently as a way to be a tool to allow you to make these effective data-driven decisions, okay? So the rules, right? So a couple of the rules that I can sort of think of, you know, there's a right way of doing it and a wrong way of doing it, right? So, you know, how many of you like count macros or track your macros, and it's like, you know, I'm going to show up, and if I've got to hit my macros spot on, and if I don't do it, you know, that's the wrong way, like I've failed or I've done it wrong, right? And that is something that I get like really, really frequently. And, you know, that I do see a problem with that, you know, and I will sort of go more into that later, but we don't want to see that as, you know, we're doing it a wrong way or a right way, okay? So diet rules, you know, only eating clean food, cutting out carbs, sugar, don't eat after 7, don't eat before 12. So that's like the fasting that I was talking about. Having your shakes, not eating processed food, or hitting your macros, right? So some people can actually turn this into, you know, a form of dieting, right? So the right way and the wrong way, okay? And that's the I guess problem, right? If we think of, okay, well, I'm doing it the wrong way, like, oh my gosh, I'm doing keto, but I actually ate carbs. You think that you are the problem, right? So you try harder, like tomorrow I'm not going to eat that banana, or tomorrow I'm not going to eat until 12 o'clock, right? So it's like you think that you are the problem, okay? And you just need to do it better, or you need to be better, okay? So so same with intermittent fasting, right? So it's like, you know, what time can I break the fast? And it's like you have all these rules of like, well, someone says it's like 11 o'clock, someone says it's 12 o'clock, but it's not actually what you want to do, right? So so you look at it as the point of view of there's like a right way or a wrong way, and you just got to do it the right way, all right? So that's the problem. So who can really see that, you know, when it comes to this, is like, you know, when we're sort of dieting, we're following what other people are telling us that we need to do based on, you know, them being the expert, right? So and the right way. So it's like, again, if we're doing it the right way, like, yes, I'm eating, you know, no carbs because I'm doing keto, or I'm, you know, not eating until 12 o'clock because that's when my, you know, the fasting has to stop or whatever. So we're doing it right. But then it's like, well, what do you do when the results stop? It's like, well, do I cut it out till like 1 o'clock? Is that when I start eating? Or do I eat like how do you eat less carbs? You know, like if you're eating less carbs, right? So it's like, what do you do when it stops working, even if you are doing it the what you think is the right way? Okay. So the real issue isn't which diet is right, it's rather what is effective and enjoyable. So that's like those two circles that we saw coming together before. So it just means that that's customized to you. Okay. So it's just, you know, before we go into that, it's really about, you know, we want to create something that is customized to us. Okay. And this is where we talk about the science, Michelle. Like, I love this as well. But before we do that, we separate, you know, belief from science. Okay. So what actually causes fat loss? Okay. And I really just want you to stop and have a think about this, because what most people think happens when it's like comes to like body composition changes, so like fat loss or weight loss, from the actual way that it happens are sometimes two very different things. So I'm not going to go like really deep into this here, but I really just want you to see how important it is to understand what actually causes fat loss, or insert your goal, right? Muscle gain, whatever it might be. And it's slightly different for both. So we are going to talk about fat loss here for this session, like this, I guess, example. Okay. So a lot of you probably would have seen this before. Now, this is like, we're building this up. So this is like a big pyramid, right? So what we're going to do here is just go through a little bit of learning so that you can really see how fat loss happens. So who's down for that? Who's ready to have a bit of a look at that? Yeah, no worries, Alicia. No worries at all. It'll be great to have you back on the replay. All good. So who's here still with me? Let me know if you're still here live. I just want to get a bit of a, yeah, I'm here, so I can just see that you are all here ready to go through this. I'm going to go through it quite quickly, but you'll get to really see me building upon this. Yeah, awesome. Big thumbs up. Michelle, you've probably seen this before. Sarah, awesome. I'm drinking my Nelly cold iced coffee. That's just a little excuse for me to have a little sip. Now, this hierarchy of nutrition is just going to give you a bit of framework so that you've got some understanding around changes in body composition. Okay, so if you're wanting to add muscle, fat loss, whatever it is, okay, it's like this is what we talk about, like changing your body composition. So we're going to start to build this pyramid, and you'll see that the base of the pyramid are going to be the most important things. Okay, so this is like the 20% of stuff that we want to focus on, right? That's going to give you the 80% of results. So that's how that kind of ties together. So at the end of the day, it's basically the law of thermodynamics. Okay, so it applies to weight loss, weight gain. It's like calories in, calories out. It's not as simplified as that, but we'll get there. Okay. That is an oversimplification. It's not the only thing. However, that's the biggest part of the puzzle or of the framework. Okay, so you know, most of you probably have followed me for a little while. It's like, I guess, talking about fat loss and weight loss are not the same things. Okay, so that's where our macronutrients come into it. Okay, so you've got down here your energy balance, which is the calories in and calories out. So basically that's the lower level. Moving up a level, you've got your macronutrients. So macronutrients we'll go into a little bit later, but basically they're the foods or the things in the foods that give you calories. Okay, so your proteins, your carbs, and the fat. Okay, and that determines your body composition, right? So that's like your muscle mass, your body fat, that type of thing. So that's what we talk about when we say body composition. So macronutrients, while not as important as calories, macronutrients are determined like your muscle mass. Okay, so like if you're not eating enough protein, obviously you're not going to be able to like build muscle probably as effectively, right? So macronutrients really determine like what you're gaining in terms of, you know, whether it's fat or muscle or that type of thing. Okay. Next one up is micronutrients. So micronutrients support your overall health. Okay, so they're not as important, or I shouldn't say not as important, but they're probably a lot like smaller, I guess. So, you know, when it comes to counting macronutrients, we want to, you know, sort of really track protein, carbs, and fats, but we also want to make sure that we're getting enough like vitamins, minerals, nutrients into our day, into our nutrition as well. Okay, so we still need them, but it's not as I guess, I shouldn't say important, not as structurally, you know, like the way that all of our foods are made up, macronutrients are what is giving us the energy balance, right? So we still need the micronutrients, but we just have to be less aware of them probably than the micronutrients, okay? Up here is our, one level up is our like nutrient timing. So like when you're having your meals, the timing, the frequency. So that's like, you know, pre and post workout meals, number of meals, times of your meals. So it's a lot less important than probably what most people think, right? So most people think like you go to the gym, you got to have a protein shake straight away or whatever it is, right? So that's a lot less important than like if you're just focused on that, but you're not actually really aware of what calories are coming in and out, then it's not going to matter, right? It actually matters less. So it's like that Pareto principle again, that 80-20. This is getting up towards, you know, your 80%, whereas down here, like that's your 20% of important stuff. So who can really see that kind of tied together when it comes to that? Yeah, the foundation to build on, absolutely. This is like building your house, like you're laying like the slab and the foundations in the ground. Well, maybe, yeah, the slab, and this is your foundations, this is your slab, this is your block work, this is like your timber work, you know, and this is kind of all the cosmetic stuff that makes your house look right or look good, right? So if you don't have this strong and that's, you know, that's going to crumble, then all of this up here is not going to matter, right? So yeah, it's really those things don't matter as much. Now at the very, very top, supplements, right? So who thinks that, you know, oh my gosh, you know, you got to have all these supplements, you got to pay for like protein shakes and like, you know, pills and, you know, vitamin, you know, supplements and all this sort of stuff. But this is like the minute little bit of like 2% that's going to make a difference to everything, right? So like, yes, maybe if you're like a really elite athlete and you've got these really high performance goals, like if you're having, say, creatine or L-carnitine or something like that, like, yes, that can kind of give you that little bit of a like competitive edge. But if it's just like fat loss and you're actually wanting to just, you know, lose fat, change your body composition, this up here, like no matter if you're taking like fat burning, like, you know, pre-workouts or something like that. And again, this isn't foundationally strong, everything's going to crumble. Okay. So who can really understand that, like really understand that, I guess, pyramid or that foundation, right? So I think this is really important to see that like as a visual, okay? All right, now I'm going to cruise through this pretty quickly because I don't want to get into like a big long lesson around this, but if you haven't heard of the word macros before, macronutrients, right? So basically our energy balance or our calories come from what we call our macronutrients, okay? So macros is basically what makes up our food and the calories in it, okay? So if you haven't, you know, heard of it before, that's completely okay. If you have, fantastic. But basically, macros or macronutrients are basically just protein, carbohydrates, and fat. And each gram of carbs, protein, or fat that you eat are giving you a certain amount of calories. So basically, in the day, that makes up your calorie intake. So no matter what you eat, whether that be like, you know, a piece of broccoli or a donut, like you're all getting, you know, different types of, you know, macronutrients from those foods. Okay. So when you compare it to say like, you know, vitamin A or B or D or whatever it might be, so that's kind of all the micro nutrients, okay? And they're needed in much smaller quantities, whereas, you know, the macros are kind of, you know, bigger quantities. That's like the building blocks of your food, okay? So that's what gives us the calories. So basically, if we're tracking, or some people call it counting, I like to call it tracking macros. It's basically keeping track, because we're not really counting it as such. We're not, you know, I don't know, like, yes, if we're a scientist, we might be like a bean counter, right? Or, you know, something like that. But I just feel like tracking is a better word. So we're keeping track of the amount of protein, carbs, and fats that you consume. So in effect, what does that actually mean? Like if we're keeping track of protein, carbs, and fats, what else are we actually keeping track of, right? We're actually keeping track of this here, our energy balance, okay? So our calories, okay? So basically, if you're tracking protein, carbs, and fats, then you're knowing exactly how many calories that you're consuming, okay? So does that make sense to everybody? Does everyone kind of get that? Everyone's clear with that? You're happy for me to keep going, or is that like completely confused you? Hopefully it hasn't too much. So everyone can still see me, hopefully. And I'm definitely drinking an iced coffee now. It's pretty cold. Now, before we do move on, I guess, to this idea of, tracking or counting macros, people have a definition, or probably a different definition of what that actually means. And I'm going to share with you what my definition is and why that's actually really important. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the body has an amazing ability to do everything it needs to keep you energized and living your best life. Yeah, absolutely. If nourished correctly, I love that. Learning how to do that is key. So true. And I really believe that if you're just following the rules of a diet that someone else is giving you, you're not actually learning how to do that, right? So that's why, spot on, you hit the nail on the head. Like, learning how to do that is absolute key. So that's an awesome comment there, Kerry. Thank you. All right, so my definition is, I guess, is the best way to build an effective and enjoyable plan for your goals. Okay, so a lot of people think you get like a set amount of like protein, carbs, and fats, and you just got to hit them. But again, that's I guess you're already probably starting to see my definition of a diet is like, you've just got to hit a number, and if you don't hit it, like, you've got to try harder. Okay, and we don't want that associated with like macro tracking, because it then does become, you associate it like a diet. Okay, and that's why sort of, I term tracking macros as simply being aware of and keeping track of how much protein, carbs, and fats that you're eating, and making shifts, right, that align with something that's going to be like effective and enjoyable for you. Okay, so it's not so much about like, I have to do this, I've got to get it right every single day, and then having that mindset of like, I've failed because I didn't do it. But it's about tracking and then shifting to go, okay, well, if I'm doing this, how is that aligning with the goals that I'm trying to reach? And the goal should be exactly like you said, Kerry, nourishing the body. Food is fuel. You should be fueling your body. Okay. So it's a bit like that analogy that I use with the knife. Like, a knife can be used for really productive things. You can, cut your veggies, and you can maybe like, cut out a beautiful wood carving sculpture or something like that. Or you could like stab somebody with it, right? So you've got, the same tool, two different results, two different outcomes. So it's really how I see like the tool of, macro tracking, right? And we can use that tool in a productive way or a not productive way. Okay. And when we utilize the tool differently, right? If we went to pick it up and stab someone and went, oh, actually, no, I'm going to go and carve this piece of wood, we're going to get a completely different result, right? So the process is different. All right, so why are we tracking macros? Obviously, number one, maximizing fat loss, minimizing muscle loss. Okay, so again, like I said before, we need protein, we need carbs, we need fat for our body for all different sorts of things, and I'm not going to go into all of that now, but it really is the most effective way to be able to do those two things. Okay, and it's a really good tool to be able to find that overlap of it being enjoyable and effective. Oh, what happened then? I went back, that's why. So it keeps your food choices balanced, okay? So basically, when I say food choices, like, yeah, protein, carbs, and fats. So sometimes, we might eat lots of carbs and fats, but not enough protein, or we might eat, lots of protein and carbs, but hardly any fat, or protein and fat, not enough carbs, right? So it's really about having that variety of all of the different macronutrients, because we do need them all for all different types of things. But it's really just about, looking at how much we're having in what quantity, so that you've got that balance, right? So when I talk about balanced nutrition, it's a balance of protein, carbs, and fats, okay? So number three is it kind of removes the good food versus bad food labels, okay? So oftentimes we're like, no, that's bad food, I can't have that, we've got to stay away from that. And that creates a lot of unhealthy relationship around food, right? So it's like we have this shame and this guilt attached to certain things or certain foods that we like to eat, right? And we can have these labels, and then, it just becomes this whole struggle then if we're like, no, we can't have that, or we shouldn't have that. And it's like, it just becomes a struggle when we have that, that labeling going on. So, and if you've got that label of like, that's a bad food, it kind of increase your, your chances of being like, I'm going to have that food because, I'm a bit of a rebel, right? Or I've been so good, I'm going to eat the bad food now. And then you kind of end up binging, and, it's just this whole guilt and shame around it. Okay. So yeah, removing those labels, and again, it's going to be enjoyable, right? So if you're creating your plan or building your plan around what you like and it's customized to you, it's going to be enjoyable, and you're going to be a lot more likely to be able to stick to it long term, to sustain it long term. So and I really want to say that with a caveat of, I do not expect anybody to track macros for the rest of their life. Okay. I do not expect you to do this forever. If you can and you want to, great, but it's not something that we should have to use. Like it's a tool to be able to help you to learn and understand. Just like Kerry said before, learning how to do that, learning how to nourish your body. That's what this tool is actually for. Okay. So the goal isn't, making you do this forever. It's kind of like giving you the training wheels that you practice and you learn. And then eventually, right, you take the training wheels off and then you can, ride your bike up the road and enjoy, riding, right, and the wind in your hair. That's kind of what we want here. So it's really about, getting to that place where, you don't have to track your macros anymore, because it becomes a lifestyle. The foods, that you are eating and how that kind of gives you that energy balance, what macronutrients you're getting from the food. And then able to have a lot more freedom because you know how to get the results as well that you actually want. So it's a tool. Okay. So macro tracking is a tool and it can be used the wrong way. Like, do not get me wrong. It absolutely can. And it can be turned into another diet. And I have seen this before, but we do not want that to happen. And, if you have done that in the past, have, I guess, compassion for yourself with that, because I do get it. And I can see how people can use it the wrong way. And, if you're coming from that diet mentality and from like this structure of being on a diet, then it is sometimes a trap you can fall into. Okay. And if you have turned it into another diet, like it's not your fault. It's simply because no one's helped you to understand the tool and taught you how to use the tool, right? So who really gets that, or perhaps has maybe had that hit your numbers and then you get frustrated when you don't, then you have turned it into a diet, right? So if that's the case, then that's completely okay. Like, there's no judgment. It's not your fault, because, that's perhaps all that you've known. All right. So this is, again, something, again, I can relate to. Okay. So I can see definitely how that happens. All right. So coming back to this quadrant. So is everyone with me so far? How's everyone going with it? Just let me know if you're all good. Just want to make sure that I've still got everyone here. Sorry, just let me refresh. I think we've still got people on, which is great. Thumbs up. Thanks, Sarah. Beautiful. Awesome. All right. So we've got our yo-yo dieter, fly buzzing around here, our diet hopper, and thirdly is our macro dieter. So this is kind of leading into what we were just talking about. So so if you are somebody who's perhaps, tracking your macros, kind of knows how to do this, you possibly could fall into this category. You've had something, customized and, set for you, but then you're still making emotional decisions, right? You're just like, oh, well, I didn't get my numbers perfect yesterday. So you get really frustrated and emotional. And then it's like, oh, I'm going to just not worry about tomorrow, right? So it's like you're still using those emotional triggers that come up as a way to make those rash decisions, okay? So I really just want you to understand that, you can still have that guilt, that shame sort of, associated with that, but it's really, I guess, understanding that, we're sort of treating this like that dieting mentality. And that's really, especially if you have been in the program or are in the program, I really just wanted to make this really clear that this is what we should be really aware of if we do tend to do this, right? So instead of making these emotional decisions, what we want to do is make decisions with like a cool, calm head, data-driven decisions. And if you did, would you get better results? Like, would you actually see the results that you want? So like, if you could combine having that customized plan where you get to control, the food that you're eating, what you're having, but you've also got the ability to make, common sense decisions, sensible decisions, and make data-driven adjustments, right, over time. Okay, so that's what we call like the macro expert, all right, or the macro, like a scientist. Like, you're actually using that data to really make adjustments and better decisions. Okay, so we've got the macro expert. So you can see over here, they're moving away from the emotional decisions, but they're moving towards the data-driven decisions, and they're moving away from the one size fits all, like just cut your carbs or fast, up to this customized plan. So this is the sweet spot of where we want to sit, right? So you've got this awesome plan that you're customizing to you and your goals and your unique lifestyle, but you're also taking away the roller coaster of emotions. Okay, so who can really see that this could be, oh, am I frozen? Can everyone hear me? I hope. Can you hear me now? Let me just refresh. Give me a little minute to make sure I'm not frozen. Can you girls hear me now? Just give me a thumbs up if I'm unfrozen. Awesome, cool. Sorry about that. All good, beautiful. All right, so who can really see that this is where we want to sit, right? That sweet spot. Customized, data-driven, as opposed to one-size-fits-all emotional decisions, okay? So that is that beautiful spot. And like I spoke about in day one is this macro expert, you are the guru, you are like the expert, right? It's not giving the power away to somebody else, saying this is what you should do, follow my rules, use my blanket approach, whatever it is, right? It's like you are taking that power back, because that's not going to help you long term if you continue to give that power away to somebody else, right? So you can look at the data, you can look at your plan and be like, right, I'm actually in control of this, okay? So who can really see the benefit of that? Yeah, awesome. That's good. That's really good. So it's like you're taking the knowledge and you're doing what you feel is best with that knowledge, right? As opposed to just, someone else saying, this is what I think is best for you, okay? And my second question, like, would it be more fun for you if you were to do that, right? So rather than someone say, like, you just have to cut your carbs out and go keto, and you go, actually, I really like bread or bananas or whatever it is, right? It would be a lot funner, right? If you were like, actually, I get to eat the bread and the bananas, but I still get to get results, right? So it's going to be a lot more fun, because we're going to be able to stick to it then too, right? And that's what we want. I'm all about making this something that you can stick to and enjoy long term, okay? So I think that that's really, really important. So going back to these diet rules again, okay? So if we look at those rules, what actually is happening here? So if we're following these rules and we're like, only eat clean foods, cut out carbs, all this stuff, what are we just effectively doing, right? Eating less calories. So going back to like that hierarchy of nutrition, we're just decreasing the energy balance, decreasing the calories, right? So basically that leads to weight loss, right? So eat less calories, weight loss. So this isn't anything special. This is not any like magic thing, right? This is just, it's eating less calories and it's weight loss, okay? But in reality, like, yes, like it's, fewer calories equals weight loss. But, if you're cutting out sugar and you like to have sugar, or if you're cutting out carbs like bread, that sort of thing, and that's what you want to eat, like, is that going to be worth the payoff? And for a lot of the times, it's like those two circles being separate, or effective or enjoyable, and it's not, right? So the truth is, yes, like you must be in a calorie deficit to lose weight, like absolutely, like, and to lose, again, like losing fat and losing weight are two different things. So weight loss does not equal fat loss, okay? So it's not the same thing. So what you actually want to lose is fat, right? So if you looked at, some ladies, they can be the exact same weight, but their body composition, the amount of muscle mass compared to the amount of body fat that they have on their body is going to be a lot different, okay? So, you can weigh, I've been at the same weight before and look like completely different, right? So it really is about, fat loss as opposed to weight loss and those body composition changes, okay? So consider this for a moment, right? So this is really important. Believing that there's a perfect diet out there only makes you think that the grass is greener somewhere else, okay? So it was what I was talking about before. It's like, oh, the keto stopped working. Maybe I should introduce fasting with that as well, right? So rather than watering your own grass and making it greener, okay? So what if we actually watered our own grass and focused on making it greener, rather than looking at a diet thinking like the grass is greener over there, okay? So I really just want you to kind of take that in for a moment and just understand that the grass isn't greener somewhere else, but you have to focus on making your grass greener, okay? So that's really what I want you to just come from, that perspective. And also too, your success doesn't come from your diet. So this is going back to what I said at the start, like, and this is why I'm so big on mindset, and why we focus the first 2 days on that, is because success does not come from the diet. It comes from you, okay? And you bring you along to every new diet that you start, right? So this is why I'm so big on making sure that your mindset is so strong and it's so good, and you're in the correct structure and in the right mindset, because it's not the diet, right? That is the success. It's you, okay? That is the success, okay? So who can really start to understand that now? Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that's totally doable as well, Kerry. Absolutely. And a lot of the times that can have, you know, a lot of, I guess, past, you know, implications from the things previously that you have done. So it may be a challenge, but it's definitely repairable. Okay. So that's completely cool. So who can really understand that success isn't from the diet, right? It's you. Okay. All right, so quickly I'm going to cruise through these because I know that I'm probably running a little bit over time. So myth number 2, if you want to lose weight, just eat fewer calories. Like, yes, we do need to eat like fewer calories, like we do need a calorie deficit, like I said before. And you're kind of wondering, okay, well, how is that a myth, right? You know, but if your strategy is to just eat fewer calories, to like, you know, I'm not going to eat, you know, carbs, I'm just going to have like 2 meals a day, I'm just going to fast at lunchtime, like that is a terrible strategy that is not going to last. Okay, so eating fewer calories is not the best strategy. Okay, and you will ultimately fail. Okay, so you know, what happens is we eat less and less and less, but in the long run, where does that go? You know, 1,500 calories, 1,200 calories, 1,000 calories, 500 calories. Do we keep going all the way down to 0, right, to get the result? Like it's, you know, if that was true, like if we were just to eat fewer calories, like we would eventually be eating nothing, right? So that, when you think about it, is like, that's just silly. Yeah. So there's this delicate balance between creating the calorie deficit, so eating less calories than like your maintenance level to maintain your weight, and fueling your body. Okay. So it's this really delicate, I guess, dance that we have to do, okay, between making sure that you're fueled effectively with your food and making sure that you are also in that calorie deficit, okay? So it's all about that balance. Now, and that all comes back to the macronutrients as well, right? So, you know, that macronutrient balance has a lot to do with, you know, fat loss, muscle gain, that sort of thing too. So it's a real fine balance between getting those right. Now, I'm not going to go, like I said, right into like protein, carbs, and fats. We sort of, you know, that's probably a little bit irrelevant for what we're talking about here. So I will sort of just jump across to myth number 3. To lose weight, we have to cut out all of the unhealthy foods. So who's done that before? Has gone like, yeah, I'm just going to ditch the sugar, ditch the, you know, some people like, you know, think dairy is unhealthy, or like it might be like the, you know, the savory things that you like, or, you know, whatever it is, right? So for whatever you perceive to be unhealthy food, I'm just going to cut all of that out. Okay. And I say sugar because that's probably the most number one demonized things. It's like, oh, you can't have that, right? So, and what happens is when we do that, our brains are so sly and tricky, like, why are we so rebellious? It's like, you know, the rebellious teenager, like, you know, don't date that person. And of course they want to go and, you know, go after that person, right? It's like our brains are just kind of wired to I guess, have that rebellious, like, you tell me I can't do it, I'm going to go and do that, right? So it's like, if we say we can't have that, it's like, oh, you know, you have this fight of like, I really, really want it, but I shouldn't want it. And, you know, then you do, and then it's like that whole guilt, shame kind of, you know, guilt trip again happening. So it's just this big cycle. When we have that strategy of like to lose weight, we just cut out all the unhealthy foods, and that's just going to help us, right? But then that leads to like binge and restrict. Okay. So, you know, I can maintain, you know, my body the way that it is, eating, you know, all the things that people probably go, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that you eat that every single day, right? Like, you know, even things like fruit, and, you know, each night I have, you know, different desserts, you know, I always have, whether it be like some, you know, dark chocolate or condensed milk or some homemade ice cream, whatever it might be. And I don't have this whole binge restrict cycle because, you know, like, yes, my intent is to keep, you know, a low body fat and be fit and healthy, and obviously fuel my body. Like, to me, it's not about being just as skinny as you can. It's like my body, you know, I want to be functioning properly. I want to be healthy. I want to have lots of energy, get lots of micronutrients for my body, and, you know, be healthy. But, you know, you don't have to be on that binge restrict type mentality of just cut out all the, you know, unhealthy foods. Okay. So if you want to reach your goals faster, restriction and binging actually slows the process down. Okay. So if you think about how many times you restrict yourself, like, I can't have that, and then how many times you find yourself binging, going, oh my gosh, now I just ate like half a packet of Tim Tams, right? So just imagine like how many calories you're actually having there, right? So it's like we think that we're doing a good thing by restricting, but in the long term, we're actually slowing the process down, okay? So I showed you this photo on day one. That's basically me a couple of days ago when I was sort of promoting the challenge. This is what I have for dessert every single night, right? So you can see here, like I've had 50 grams of carbs, 17 grams of fat, and 26 grams of protein, right? So it was like mango and condensed milk and cream and yogurt, right? So that's just like one meal in my day, right? So it's like I have this every single night, and it's not like I never ever feel like I'm missing out on anything, like I have to restrict anything, that I'm craving anything, because I don't have that, just cut out, those termed unhealthy foods, right? And it's like, it's also understanding too, it's not just about always just eating crap, like I don't eat really processed, like, and when I say like processed, like donuts or things like that, only because purely it doesn't make me feel good. Like I could, yes, if I wanted to, but I always go on, how does my body feel, right, when I eat this, okay? So it's really about, again, what is going to be customized and unique for you. You might love donuts and feel good after eating them, like, whatever it is, right? So, but it's not to say that you then don't fill the rest of your day with good quality, nutritious food as well, right? So we have to look at, those micronutrients as well, and making sure that you are getting quality, nutritious food as well, okay? All right, so wrapping back up here, talking about those three, okay? So that we had the yo-yo dieter or the hamster wheel dieter, the diet hopper, the macro dieter, and the macro expert, okay? So all of these mentalities, it's really about, I think a lot of us probably could maybe put ourselves into one of these boxes. Perhaps you might be over here in the macro expert, but have a think about where you kind of sit with that, and how you make decisions based on, whether you just like, someone give me a plan, I'll just follow that, right? And then you just make these emotional decisions, or whether you're sort of more looking to go, yeah, I'm going to be able to make a customized plan, okay? So it's really just about looking at being over here as the macro expert, and have the confidence, how to do things for yourself. You make really good decisions that are data driven, not emotional driven. You understand how to manipulate things. You understand that if you don't have a perfect day, that's okay. You understand that if the weight doesn't go down, in a week or two, that's okay, right? So it's like you are very controlled and very methodical about how you make these decisions, all right? So, but also when you're a macro expert, you're actually enjoying what you're doing as well as getting the effective results, okay? So who can really relate to that? Like who has perhaps seen, where they are in terms of like, yeah, I fit in this box, or I'm a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Perhaps, yeah, you've seen maybe a few of those mentalities or sort of tendencies come up, okay? All right, so we talked a lot about, becoming the macro expert, moving away from those like dieting mentalities, and really just looking at perhaps if you are sort of looking at, the macro, I guess, thing, are you using that as a diet as well? Okay, so we don't want that to happen. We want to be able to, for you to have that growth and be able to move forward, but to really make really good decisions based on that. Okay, and you probably have some questions around like, yes, that all sounds really good. Like that's really awesome, but how do I get there? Like, how do I do that? How do I actually become that macro expert? Okay. And, without sort of taking up, all of this energy and all of these things, right? So we're going to cover that in day 5, okay, of how to actually make that transition. And I'll walk you through some of the some say tools, not stools, walk you through some of those tools and give you some of those, I guess, ingredients that are going to allow you to shift from these mentalities of like the diet hopper, the yo-yo dieter and the macro dieter to that macro expert, okay? But tomorrow we're going to talk about training, okay? So making sure that the way that you're training is effective, okay? So for whatever insert that goal is, so whether that be like, fat loss, weight loss, muscle building, getting toned, whatever it might be, okay? And I really just want to encourage you again, just to remember, like, this is a lot of like me dumping like knowledge and information on you, but I really just want you to sit with not the feeling of overwhelm, but just to take like one thing away from today. So like my goal is for you to not sort of, absorb all this stuff, but to go, okay, I can take one thing away from it today. And if I can just take one thing and start applying that to my journey, how is that actually going to help you to progress forward? Okay, because it's all about, when we start to implement, okay, these things, it's like so much better. Like the secret to success is not just going on, I'm just going to like learn and learn and learn and not actually implement. It's really about, if you're successful, it's because you're learning and then implementing, learning, implementing, taking action, right? So it's all about that action taking and just doing one thing more than what you would have done yesterday or last week. Okay, so thank you all for being here. I know that I'm running a little bit over time, 10 minutes late, so thank you all for sticking around and for staying so long. So I'll put the accountability post into today's into the Facebook group for today, so that you can select done. Let me know when you've done today's task, and also let me know the biggest takeaway that you have picked up from today. And maybe just before we finish the live, if you are still here, let me know what your biggest takeaway from today was and what your one action, task or takeaway to implement is actually going to be. Awesome. No worries, Sarah. Yeah, thank you for joining. Thank you all that were listening live. If you're watching the replay, make sure that you do let me know what your biggest takeaway was and what you're actually going to implement with some action. So so have a great rest of the day, and I will speak to you tomorrow. Thanks, ladies. Awesome, Michelle. That's great. Find what works best for me. Awesome. It's all about being customized to you. Beautiful. All right. Cheers, ladies. Have a good one. Hey, bye.